adjustments here, fixing some stuff up. Hopefully getting DOS levels all good. Yeah. All right, guys. Fun. More fun. More fun. Just very quickly. Gotta get my ugly mug in here. Sorry. Okay, I think we're set up. I think things are looking good now. So first off, I just wanted to extend a big thank you to the friends who reached out after yesterday's stream and sent some really encouraging, lovely words. It was nice to hear that people enjoyed some of the content. I was pretty riled up at the time and excited, and I think I kind of blew through a couple of subjects really quickly. And I'm going to take a little bit more time to try and enunciate some of the things that I'm trying to articulate here a little bit better. But anyway, all of that being said, thank you for joining. For those of you who are joining tonight, we're going to have some fun, guys. We're going to be looking at a couple of things. So I think the first topic my notes, that I want to talk about was sort of the basics of web hosting on the internet. What a web host is, what a web host does, the services they provide, etc., etc. And then we'll get into some of those details. But to kind of start, I think it's important for us to remind ourselves of, how a computer connects to not just the internet, but to like an internet website. So when you go to www.google.ca, your machine obviously reaches out to that IP address of the Google services. Your computer is essentially shown to a web server where it connects and then is presented with the appropriate page. Obviously, every website is kind of hosted in different domain hosts like Amazon Web Services, GoDaddy, Squarespace. You've probably heard of a couple of these. But essentially, a host or a server that you're connecting to is just a box that is running some type of operating system. It has the particular content of whoever wants to share that, and then that is essentially sent to your computer, right, as you query it and request different web pages. And that's all done through the HTTP or HTTPS, which is your hypertext transfer protocol. And that's essentially one of the many languages of the internet and how your computer communicates to the web server. So when we talk about web hosting is really an umbrella term. It's not necessarily just about running, the server with the OS and letting you connect to it and put whatever files that you want to, have shared out with the internet. Hosts offer all kinds of services like domain purchasing, because you might want to buy a domain. Well, you have to register it. There's a bit of paperwork involved with that. They take care of that for you, right? You're going to need all kinds of things like, your DNS records and all that. They essentially manage a lot of the overhead that if you theoretically, if you really wanted to, you could run a website off of your home computer. It would be cost prohibitive, and it would be, kind of a pain in the ass and ineffective for several reasons. Totally possible though, if you really wanted to, but for reasons we'll get into, you're not going to want to do that. You could also, in theory, just build your own web server if you wanted. And a web server is just a computer, so you could have a second box sitting at your desk that you install a particular, OS for sharing, websites. So you could use an Apache Linux, or you could use some Microsoft product and essentially connect that to your home internet connection. Now, some internet service providers are not going to actually let you have users connect via certain protocols. They actually want to discourage that, and you might need to upgrade to a business connection in order to actually do web hosting or file hosting. So that could be a potential barrier. Not that I expect a lot of people being interested in spitting up their own bare metal web servers at home, but it's totally something that's possible. But hardware costs money. OSs cost money. I mean, unless it's running on Linux, right? But the idea here is that, there is a cost to serve, essentially. And large hosts have buying power. They can significantly reduce that cost to serve and bundle a variety of services. So I remember when I got my first website, it was back in the early 2000s. I signed up with like a GoDaddy. Now, GoDaddy did not provide me with any kind of framework for building that website. They just gave me a host. They said, here's your web server. You use a program called like an FTP connection, whether it's WinSCP, whatever. FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol. So you would connect to that web server that they give you access to. You drag and drop all of your HTML files that you've created, and then people could go to your URL or, like whatever it was, in my case, 491.com, and they would instantly get fed your standard index page. And then that would load your website. You'd have all your content. You'd have all of your pictures. And this is kind of an important distinction concept that I want to discuss is, in traditional old school web hosting, all of the photographs that you see on a website, like in Twitter, Google, or Facebook or whatever, those are hosted on the actual box that you're connecting to. All the content of the website is hosted on one box, let's say, or one server. And that's what's serving that out. What web hosting allows, what good web hosts at least allow you to do is to increase the capacity and the delivery of those services, right? So, if you have a home internet connection, you're not going to be able to sustain having multiple people hammering your web server, right? You need to have a larger pipe or a larger bandwidth to be able to do that. Large hosts also do something called location redundancy as well. So when they're hosting your stuff, it's not actually just in one physical place. They have a data center which has your servers and all your stuff on it, and then they mirror that in another location, potentially on a different continent, depending on who they are, to make sure that if something happens to that data center or something burns down, you don't have to really worry about it. It's all backed up in another safe space. But the point that I wanted to make, sorry, to go back to is when we're talking about like the old school web serving, you would just log into it, you would dump all your files, and the site would be live. Nowadays, we have a lot more services like Squarespace or Wix, where they actually give you, the same, it's essentially the same service. You're buying a website, you're buying a URL, you're buying access to a server inside of their infrastructure. But in this case, they're giving you like overlay tools. They're giving you cool stuff so you can drag and drop your pictures or whatever. So all these web hosts have different features and different policies and different ways of running themselves. There's even some super shady hosting services out there that actually don't want, any kind of clientele that really would attract attention. So they're not looking for anyone who's going to be having a shit ton of visitors, or they don't want anyone who brings attention themselves, for reasons that I'm sure you can imagine. They want to keep themselves on the down low. What's also available out there is high security data centers or web hosting. There's actually, I might show you guys a video of it. There's a web host in Sweden that has essentially they're built in a bunker. Web host. I think they can show you guys a picture. This is pretty freaking cool. Now that I think about it, it's probably not in Sweden. I'm totally getting that wrong. I'll try and find it later. I really should have these things pulled up ahead of time. But anyway, there are like web hosts out there that specifically specialize in our stuff is under a mountain and could never be nuked, or is super high security and you don't ever have to worry about anyone breaking into the building. And those kind of hosts would typically be for your large financial organizations, your banks, your international men or women of mystery, I should say. Anyway, so another thing that, they offer, like I was getting back to a little bit, is high availability. And this is where Amazon gets kind of interesting. So what is AWS and why should I care? AWS is Amazon Web Services. It was created in 2006, I believe, and it was they had an original product. I think it was called the Elastic Cloud or something to that effect. And shortly after, it really started getting traction. And one of the things that they really, really, really did, which was they dominated market share. Like they absolutely, I think it was. Sorry, I have it written down somewhere here. Um, they completely undercut the competition. So by offering web hosting services or offering data center services to businesses at an incredibly low cost, why would you go somewhere else? They also innovate like crazy. They have an insane pace of innovation in which they have been able to develop and deliver data center technologies in just ways that drive the way the internet works today. I was talking a little bit earlier about how when you connect to an old school traditional web server, right? You're connecting to a specific box that's sitting in a rack somewhere in a data center, right? It's on that box. What Amazon and some of these other hosts like Microsoft Azure have started to do is really distribute the data and the way they funnel their servers. And one of those things is called a CDN, or a content delivery network. If you've ever seen, I think it's called Cloudflare. Cloudflare is one of the biggest CDNs on the internet, and that's an Amazon company. So CDNs are a way of, when we're talking about photographs and the content of your website, what they do is rather than host that on a specific web server, they host it on these content delivery networks that are sort of spread out all over the internet. And the idea behind this is to essentially facilitate quicker access to content, right? When you go to Google, I want you loading resources from some machine that is geographically, let's say, close to you, hopefully. And there's a whole bunch of wonderful science and math about sort of how that happens that we won't necessarily get into. But the point is that Amazon has done an incredible job innovating in this space, and that is why so many large organizations use them as their hosting provider. Now, I can speak to my own personal experience. I don't want to get into too much details or too into the weeds in terms of what my work does, but I will say that in my career, we've used Amazon Web Services, the company that I've worked at. We use it for hosting our website essentially, and we're heavily reliant on it. It's a very, very robust service that offers large enterprises, medium businesses, and even small businesses all the tools that they need to succeed on the internet, right? And that means being available, having like high availability, highly secure, highly customizable environments. And something interesting that I have seen happen in a lot of different spaces, particularly in IT, is this: you essentially see a new product or a new service come out, and an entire ecosystem, like in like a literal ecosystem, will grow around this one product. An example of that, and I'll just touch on really quickly, is ServiceNow. Is a really powerful ITSM tool in the IT world, and so many companies have adopted it. It has a lot of power, but there's so many small organizations that literally just build products for ServiceNow, right? We build a thing that does a magical thing inside of ServiceNow. We corner the market in terms of making this work better in ServiceNow. We go into companies and make them realize their value in ServiceNow. So this exact same thing or ecosystem has sprung out around Amazon Web Services. Because it's so popular, a lot of platforms develop really slick, cool integrations. Oh, you want to buy our product? Well, guess what? It easily deploys to AWS, right? Or you want to get our thing to talk to your other thing? Well, that's really easy to do on AWS. So AWS is a great service. There's a really good episode of Patriot Act with Hassan Minhaj. I think I'm trying to pronounce his name properly. He does a great talk on on Amazon and their web hosting services, how they've dominated the market share, and how it's kind of freaky that they do so. I think one of the things to touch on is or the last thing that I want to touch on with the Amazon or Amazon web hosting services is why should I care? Like, what do I care? Okay, cool. Amazon hosts websites. Why do I give a shit? Like everything that Amazon does, there is a hidden cost, right? It's awesome to use Amazon Prime. It's great that we're getting stuff delivered to our houses really quickly and efficiently, and it works, right? What really gets scary, though, is where those hidden costs are. So if you talk about the Amazon delivery service and you look at the people who work in the warehouses, there's some pretty shitty externalities there, right? And you can also look at things like the companies that Amazon actually is really good at going and undercutting, because they're capable of gathering an enormous amount of analytics. Like if you're a seller, and I'm sure all of you guys have heard this, but if you're a seller on Amazon and you're doing really well and you have a product that kicks ass, they'll take it. Like they won't just take it, they'll build it themselves. They'll say, this guy's on fire. We can build faster and quicker and scalable, and we can undercut the competition. And because he's on our platform, we just put him to the bottom of the list. When someone searches cool thing that I want that this guy makes, I don't know, I'm bad, I'm not good with examples today, guys. Cool thing that I want, their cool thing that you want is going to be the first thing in the list, and they're going to bury the other guy's cool thing that you want. So that's one of the hidden costs, right? Now, something else that's, both powerful but terrifying about Amazon is their buying power, right? Because they're capable of buying such large data centers. Like it was kind of when I was using the example, if you wanted to host a website at home, you could go and you can buy a server or a computer. Amazon can buy that same server for pennies on the dollar. They can rack it for pennies on the dollar. They can get the electricity cheaper than you. They have all these agreements and vendors and outsourced contracts and ways of, we talk about this in the industry all the time, to reduce your cost to serve. You want to continue to serve your clients, but you want to do it at a lower cost because we want to raise profits, right? So this is something Amazon's really good at. They're good at scaling. They're good at giving a great cost to serve. But there is a dark part about that undercutting. And then you start to look at the idea of the deplatforming. So coming back onto the whole Parler thing, I don't think that there's a lot of intellectual musing to be done about whether or not that platform should have been taken down. I'll do it a little bit. I think the answer is just yes. If a particular website is incapable of providing any kind of content moderation, then fuck them, right? Sorry, I don't mean to be crass, but like if you're incapable of making sure that the people on your site are not inciting violence or doing like horrific shit, then yeah, maybe the private company that is, running that stuff wants to, sorry, I'm just pulling something up or trying to pull something up here. Yeah, they have every right to tell you to go fuck yourself. Okay. And that's fine. And it's great that we're all excited about Amazon pulling the trigger on one of on essentially someone who you consider to be an enemy in any capacity, whether you're a Canadian or American, whether you're Indonesian or Japanese. Like the activity that we saw is antithetical to civilization. It flies in the face of responsible citizenry. And we have to tread lightly about the tech companies. And I hate even saying that word. It sounds so fucking already cliche. But the tech companies having maybe just a little bit too much to say, or so a little bit too much influence in who is heard. It's a double-edged sword, guys. There was originally a case of net neutrality. This happened way back in the early 2000s. Probably the early 2000s, where there was a pro-choice organization that was trying to run a pro-choice ad using Verizon's SMS service, and Verizon basically said, no, you can't do it. We're not going to let you do it. And there was a civil rights case. I think the ACLU got involved as well, but it was a little bit of a kerfuffle because they determined that, Verizon's a private company and it can decide who it wants and doesn't want to allow advertising, because advertising isn't necessarily equated to free speech. So there's what I'm trying to get at is there's a lot of legal cases that set a lot of weird precedents in this area, and I haven't spent enough time thinking about it to have a really good answer whether Amazon should be the arbiter of who's on the internet. You could totally say that, okay, like I was in my last video, that these guys could just pick up and go elsewhere. And that's possible, but finding another web host at the same cost to serve is going to be significantly more difficult, right? Because again, Amazon's ubiquitous, it's cheap, it's highly available, it's easy for people to get to. You're not going to have a lot of problems. You could go to some rinky-dink ass web hosting company, but you're going to have a harder time working with them. I think that's all I really wanted to say about Amazon and web hosting. I don't know, chat, if you guys ever have any questions or if there's anything in the conversation, whether it's a concept, an acronym, or something that I've used that doesn't make a lot of sense, I would love to hear from you guys. So one little quick thing that I want to look at as a reiteration, because I'm just swooning so hard over this Parler hack. There's some fun developments. So we talked a little bit about Parler in my last video. Basically, alt-right Twitter got destroyed by Google and by Apple, and then quickly got deplatformed. To say deplatformed is wrong. Amazon told them, we don't want you on our services anymore, and they're fully within their right to do that. Once that was done, or as that was happening, we found out that this great hacker, Donk NB, ended up just scraping all of Parler's unencrypted, publicly available, no authentication API. Let me just say that with a little bit more butter in my voice, because it's truly beautiful. No authentication API. Mucho belle. I don't even know what I just said there, guys. I apologize to anyone who's from Italian descent. Downloaded some of the metadata on my other computer. Cool stuff in there. There's one thing that I want to show in particular that's probably the most interesting, and that's someone actually visualized the metadata. So maybe I should slow down a little bit and talk a little bit more about what metadata is. We hear metadata all the time, but what is it? Metadata is information that is embedded in some kind of an artifact. And when I use the word artifact, I'm saying a video, a photograph. Metadata can be part of a phone call, right? It's ancillary information that's contained within a particular artifact. So in the case of the Parler leak, what they were able to do is take all of these photographs and videos, pull what is called EXIF data, and map that out over a GPS. So they could pull all the latitude and longitude coordinates from the metadata that is embedded. A lot of phones out of the box, when you take pictures, they will put in the GPS coordinates of where you're standing. And I've seen this before where like you can pull pictures off people's Facebooks that contain you used to be able to. Facebook now does actually a good job where if you put a picture of yourself up on the internet or Instagram, it usually scrubs that identifying metadata. And that's something that did not happen in the case of Parler. Another thing that I found out that was interesting that I want to touch on really quickly. A technique that you use in IT security is the concept of obfuscation, right? So let's say, I wanted to guess the unique identifiers for a username. So let's say you have a username, msmith, and then there's a unique identifier that's associated, a number that's associated with each one of those users, right? You would want to hope that an organization would randomize those unique identifiers. And the reason for that is, let's say that I was able to get that unique identifier, and that identifier gave me the ability to query more information about that user. And let's pretend the number was like 1234. Well, what if you changed what if the next sequence in the next user was 1235, 1236, 1237, 1238, right? You would not want to create your usernames and your unique identifiers in any kind of sequential order, because someone could guess that order, right? If they knew someone else's unique identifier, or they knew the hash of a particular post, they could crawl through your website. If I know that the hash of your post is 436001, and I know that every single subsequent post that a user is going to post will go 43002 003. You just made my fucking day. Now I can crawl and I can just say, I don't know, show me what 003, like, do you have a post for 3? Oh yeah, 3. 4? Yeah, I got a 4. Oh shit, holy, like I just get. And so the point I'm making is that you in IT security, good IT security, you try to obfuscate stuff like that by using random numbers, right? And so this is one of the things that Parler did an absolutely piss poor job of, and that's why they were able to. And I'll actually show you what I mean by this in a second. There's a really interesting text file, and I think I need to add it to the Twitch chat here. So guys, bear with me for a hot second. Window capture, sure. Let's do Notepad. Boom. So check this out. Now this is not a good example of the sequential hashing necessarily, but these are all the post IDs that have been posted, and you can see me just kind of scroll through them all here. And this is the kind of information that's been, so what's interesting, and this is where, if I go to dog site, so this is what I mean about bad sequencing in your file names, right? Is it's 02, 03, 04, 05. And by the way, I think these are all, these are video, yeah. Sorry, I'm just really excited because the stuff that's going to come out of this is going to be absolutely fucking hilarious. So what you're seeing here, essentially, guys, is this is the web URL of a particular video and the hash or whatever for that video name. So at some point, we will be able to use these IDs to sort of query that data from the database that they're probably going to be building for us. But anyway, back to the X. Sorry, got a little distracted there. I think the coolest thing is this Kyle McDonald literally put together this beautiful map. And sorry, let me get this out of the way because it's fucking ugly. Put together this beautiful map of the United States, all lit up, real pretty. And what you're seeing is these are the locations of where these files were uploaded. Well, for 68K of the videos, and I think there's like almost 1 million, so 60,000 is a decent chunk. But you can really see the geographic layout of where these people are. One of the other things that I think he came up with is that some of these came from U.S. military bases and one near the Geoplex. It's absolutely fascinating that we were able to take. So again, we don't even have the pictures of the video yet, but we know where these people are. Like, we know exactly the area where these guys came from. And that's because of things like metadata. And that's why it's important that you know what you take pictures of and what you upload to the internet. Like, what metadata are you providing people? You know, are you turning off the location data in your phones? Do you have a good reason to? That's another video. The point I'm making is that the information that we can glean and correlate really, really paints some interesting pictures. Oh, interesting. So we can, no shit. This is fascinating. A short tutorial on how to view the remaining Parler videos by editing your DNS records. Many have been inaccessible, but some are still available. No shit. So you could follow these instructions. Add line. No. No way does this work, guys. Okay, we're going to try this really quickly. I am a computer genius, so we're going to give this a go. I know how to edit my host file. I hope everyone is excited. We're going to do some live hacking right now. So C:/Windows. Actually, you know what, guys? Here, let me do that. I'm going to show you guys everything. Here, 1 second. Just give me a second here. Sorry, I'm being weird because I'm really excited about what's about to happen. Let's go to, can I show just my desktop? Yes. Display capture. Sorry, guys. There we go. Boom. Excellent. All right, let's take a quick peek here. We're going to go to, we're going to the System32 folder. Under System32, there's a folder called Drivers. And under there, there's etc. And there's a file called Hosts. And I should be able to open with Notepad. And what we're going to do is we're going to add this host entry. Okay, so essentially what we're saying by adding a host entry, what you're telling your computer is that when I go to video.parler.com, I want you to use this IP. Huh. This may or may not work. Let's try. All right, so we go File, Save. Now, here's where things get a little weird. It doesn't like you overwriting your host's file. We'll see if this works. No. So usually what I have to do is I have to actually save this on my desktop as a host file and then overwrite it manually, which is always fun. So hosts, copy back, overwrite. Oh, I'm losing people here. That makes sense. This is not fun. All right, let's get rid of this file. Sorry, guys, we're almost there. This could be cool, though. This could be a really cool moment. If we were able to hack the planet here, I'd be super, super stoked. So let's go back to the desktop. We go to that host file. And here's the thing. Windows is a little annoying in the way that, sorry, it doesn't show extensions unless... Okay. I think I need to pause this one because I'm going to just annoy the shit out of people. It's really, really frustrating that I can't make this work right now, but it's a really, really simple fix. It's just been a while since I've actually done it. The problem is that Windows does not like you just overwriting the host file by saving it, which makes sense. So what I need to do is transform this text file into a just file by removing the extension. But Windows by default hides known extensions. And so you need to tell it not to do that. So we say hide extensions for known file types. We unapply that. Then it will say host.txt. We remove the .txt extension from the host file. And it just saves like that. And now we should be able to overwrite it to the actual host file in the proper directory, if I can find it again. Yep, etc. Hosts, paste. Yes, I want to replace this. Continue. Boom. Okay, let's try this. Yeah, this is going to work. But if it does, it's amazing. Okay, so link for the video. Holy shit, guys, we're in. This is incredible. This is coming at you live. I don't know if you guys can hear or see this. This is wild, guys. Okay, so what we were just able to do is by specifying a specific host, we were able to get access, or sorry, not specifying a specific IP address. The DNS entries have been removed from Parler, which means that if you use video.parler.com, you can't get to it. But if you know the IP address of video.parler.com, which we now know as whatever I just put into this host file, right? So as 8 dot whatever dot whatever dot whatever 8.240.242.124. Now we can resolve video.parler.com. Mark, what does that mean? That means we can go to Donk's repository of the files and we can now access these videos. So now, guys, we just got access. Now, again, some of these may work, some of these may not work. Let's find out. Quick, exciting moment here on the stream. So that one doesn't work. All access disabled. That makes sense. We can keep just trying a couple random ones here and see if any of these work. Again, this is a very like bop it over the head kind of approach. You're gonna have to try. I don't know if you guys can see this list here that I'm going through. It's literally like millions of fucking rows. Interesting. So we can still connect. It's just, yeah, some of the stuff has been taken down, but it looks like some of the videos may still be online. All access to this has been suspended. That makes sense. Super fascinating, though. Super fascinating find. Very exciting stuff. So anyway, we're getting to it. It's just, again, they've actually, and who knows, they might have fixed this as we're working on it. Very unlikely, but slightly possible. So for those of you guys just tuning in, we were actually able to make an entry in our host file, thanks to the effort of these wicked hackers, a short tutorial on how to edit your DNS records. And ever since I was able to do that, you can actually get to a video on the Parler website. This is an example of one. Again, I would need to kind of see if I could find another file that was close to this one in that list. And if I could, then maybe that one would still be up. So let's take a look. So we'll go back to the list of video files. Shit, where did they go? Did I lose it? I might have lost it here. Oh, here we go. No, that's not it. Here we go. This is what I wanted. So if we go to, let's find, is this in the document? Okay, so there's lots of those, video.parler.com / okay. We're gonna do some hacking / KI. Interesting. Oh, that's because I fucked this up royally. That's a good reason for it not to work. So hesparler.kk. Okay, so these are going to be your all the buckets under K. So let's try some of these and see if any of these work here. Just be so cute, guys. Boom, there you go. Elephant giving birth. And guys, I am going to apologize up front. I don't know what the fuck is going to come up on this. So if any of you are in spaces in which you don't want loved ones to see some fucked up shit, I highly recommend that you do not let them see the screen, because I do not know what's going to come up here. Again, we are literally trudging the depths of the shitty internet here. So anyway, this is the kind of stuff, guys, that cybersecurity researchers do. You know, they build tools to siphon this data, to find ways of accessing it, and it's absolutely fascinating that like we're still able to get to some of these things. Now, mind you, again, it seems to be not a lot of oh, see, that's not a lot on Twitch. You're not allowed to do that on Twitch. Now I'm going to pretend that didn't happen on Twitch. That's not a thing on Twitch. Please don't report me for that, guys. But this is the kind of shit that I'm talking about. It's like a fucking landmine of just weird shit. So before I like get banned for doing anything stupid, let's stop going through these videos. The point I'm making is there's a lot of content here. This is kind of what the FBI is doing right now, is going through all of this stuff and trying to find, where these videos were taken, who took them, and, maybe go knocking on some doors. The last thing that I talked about, I actually think I'm going to save for another night. We've been going for about 40 minutes here. Chat seems to have been pretty quiet. I haven't seen anyone say anything, and I appreciate that. Love the lurkers. No disrespect to the lurks. I have a really interesting story that I want to tell, but I think that I should put it together a little bit better before I dive in. It's called A Tale of Two Hackers, and it's not even two hackers, but it's kind of a juxtaposition of, sort of the hacktivism that we're seeing in the Parler space and stuff that's happening like with the SolarWinds hack or Stuxnet or, government organizations that are trying to infiltrate whether it's private entities, corporations, telecommunications companies, or whether it's the NSA or the CIA or the FBI. So I want to talk a little bit about those topics, and there's some really interesting things. Before we go, though, a little fun thing, a little fun little guy that I wanted to touch on, because I think, you should always end it on a fun note if you can. And hopefully those boobs don't come back up, because I'm going to get fucking taken off Twitch if I'm not careful. Okay. I did have an article up, and I think I fucked it up, so I'm going to just try and find it again. There's a great story. So, guys, we've talked about how important it is to make sure that your shit's secure, to make sure that you're using services that are trusted, that follow proper security procedures, so that the products and the services and the devices that you rely on each day work in an unencumbered and safe manner. Speaking of unencumbered, there's this great story where a hacker basically hacked into this thing called it's a chastity belt for dudes. So it's a sex toy. Guys wear it over their dicks so that they can't play with their dicks, and then someone controls their ability to touch their jennies. It's an interesting concept. And essentially, they found that making a request to any API endpoint did not require authentication. So again, this is going back to unsecured APIs and how dangerous they are. Essentially, what this made it easy for any hacker to do, and someone was able to do it, was remote lock someone's chastity belt. And I believe that there was actually a case where soon after the attack started, a flood of complaints came in from victim users reported they could no longer control the adult toy. Some fell victim to the attacker multiple times from screenshots seen by these guys. But of course, they don't put them in here. So I don't know how credible this is or not. But from screenshots. Sorry, I lost my spot here. For security computer, engaged victims in chassis device they're controlled. Oh, they were mocking them and asked what had happened, saying that they had used magic to take control of the smart toy. That's interesting. So these guys couldn't get their dicks out because, the fucking thing that was connected to the internet that they expected to be secured, had shitty IT sec. So anyway, I think it actually isn't that funny that a bunch of dudes, because that's kind of sucks if you're already into sort of chastity and that stuff. That's an interesting kink. We're not here to kink shame, guys. We're not here to kink shame. That's not what it's about. It's mostly just about people should be able to engage in their kinks on the internet without worrying about hackers locking their dicks up. And that, I think, is a great note to end it on today. We've been chatting for about 40 minutes. For those of you who stuck around for any amount of time, whether it's the whole time, whether it's none of the time, I love you guys. It means a lot to be coming out here and talking about this stuff. And please, I'd love to hear from you over the internet or in person about, not face-to-face in person, guys, but you get what I'm saying. I love you all, and I hope you have a really, really great evening. Bye, dudes.